第一个赛季我们就打进了季后赛，我知道我们所处的位置很艰难，但是我们会全力去拼，让看清我们的对手后悔。
去年的春天，WE拿到了第一个冠军，我很怀念当时夺冠的情景，我很想再重温一次。
我们已经连续4次杀进总决赛了，如果这一次春决没有 RNG 的話，那這個賽季對我們而言，肯定是不夠滿意的答卷吧。
經過11年嘅低谷，我哋重新進入咗季後賽，對我哋嚟講係一個好好嘅開始。我相信我哋呢個隊伍能夠再次創造奇蹟。
很多人說我們是高開低走，但是我相信自己，更相信隊友。季後賽的小道勇士不會讓支持我們的人失望。
Snake 已經不再是一支新隊了，但是這個賽季我們又找回了最開始的那股衝勁，我們想代表重慶走得更遠一些。
我知道有很多人在等着我回 EDG， 既然現在我回來了，就把你們安排得明明白白的。
我來到 LPL 已經有3年的時間，沒有比現在更好的機會了。努力了這麼久，也該輪到 IG 了。
6 paths, they're calling me Madara. Your guys will hide in the mist if my brothers put iron in fists like Kazuya. Man call me an amateur, I put numbers and squares like dates on a calendar. Had everyone dressed in black like I came here trying to unlock a new character. Had everyone dressed in black with a bottle in hand like Lei Wulong. Walk in a party, see a Barbie looking nice, I just give her a smile and a wink. Could have been dead, I could have been rich, I could have been locked in a cage.
Yesterday, we saw RNG pick up a decisive 2-0 victory over Team WE, eliminating them from playoffs. Today, round 1 of the LPL playoffs continue. We'll have BLG taking on JDG. BLG narrowly were not able to clinch second place after not being able to take down their rivals, clinch that spot and get that bye. However, for the side of JDG, it was in their hands to make it into playoffs, and they did just that, beating out rivals in the e-commerce wars of Suning Gaming, as well as taking out second place in their groups of Rogue Warriors. They've now made it here today, and now we're going to see who's going to be advancing into the quarterfinals of the LPL playoffs. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Matthew Stewart. Joining me is Zach Rusty Pie, as well as Indiana Frost going black. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. Ready for more LPL. It's only 2 games yesterday. I was actually a little bit disappointed. It's not a full set. Not enough. We need more.
Yeah, we definitely need more. We'll have more action coming your way today. But first, let's take a look for the last time at the standings of the LPL during the regular season. Because we saw Invictus Gaming 18-1, only dropping a single game at the start of split, still looking undefeated, and we know that Team WE, they are the team that have been eliminated from playoffs.
And a reminder, it is 3rd versus 4th today. Bilibili Gaming versus JD Gaming, and like you were saying, Fish, Bilibili had the shot at 2nd, unfortunately weren't able to topple EDG, now starting 3rd, whereas JD Gaming 10-9 versus Suning 9-10. By the hair of their chinny chin chin, managed to scrape into playoffs.
But they did get to do it themselves, thankfully, and as a result of that, they're able to put themselves into a fantastic side of the bracket. Frost, you might say, you don't want to be on one side of this bracket, and unfortunately for RNG, even though they got their victory yesterday, they have to play against Snake, and if they win, eventually IG.
And the reality is that Rogue Warriors have been on a downward spiral. They're currently on a losing streak. Edward Gaming, we don't even know what roster they're starting, so there's actually a possibility, a world, where JD Gaming or Bilibili could make a run for finals.
And you said it earlier, Frosker, and JD were able to narrowly clinch their playoff spot. Now is the day that they have to make it better, up against BLG, who recently have been looking incredibly good, and this is a team that we know historically can make those playoff runs.
In today's matchup, BLG against JD, it's a battle of the anime website against the e-commerce war, and unfortunately, one of these teams does have to lose.
And just a reminder to everyone back home, yes, BLG will start with a single game win. It is a way to best of 5 as they finish 3rd in their conference, whereas JDG were the team that finished 4th. So let's start with the strength of these two teams. Frost, tell me about JDG. How do they win this match?
Okay, so there's 3 things that you need to look for JD Gaming. The first and foremost is you have to look at Yagao. This guy is a triple threat mid laner. That means that not only is his champion pool massive, he can play versatile styles, but it also means that he's a team fight and roaming oriented mid laner. Now, next, you then have to think about how you unlock him in the early game, empowering that early game. The duo of Clid and Yagao is deadly for JD Gaming. They are number 1 in most ganks in the league, and they are number 4 in counter ganks. So there's a lot of action that happens around that mid side of the map because everything needs to happen before 15 minutes. They're actually second, just behind Invictus Gaming in terms of their early game dominance. Now, when it does come to late game, it's the final piece of the puzzle, and it's Loken's redemption story, where he had been benched and came back to the roster. He is now their late game insurance policy with ridiculous KDAs on both Ezreal and Varus.
He's been looking good recently, and since he's come back, it was at the crucial time for JDG, because his comeback allowed them to not only put it in their hands to make it to playoffs, but he was also able to bring the team to playoffs. Now they're playing their first match here today up against BLG. Rusty, what are the strengths of this team?
Well, BLG have a very obvious strength. I think that's the first place you have to talk, and that is going to be team fighting. You know them, you love them. They're called the Miracle Makers. Team fighting is the place where they always excel and they always get those miracles. Amazing J is one of the key members you have to look at when you talk about team fighting for BLG. 77% win rate on tanks, and usually tanks that will be engaging for you. So that's the big thing you look at for BLG as a major strength. And 2.69, I believe it is, assists per kill shows that they love themselves some team fighting. They absolutely team fight all the time. But you have to bring it back a step, look at the rest of the roster. The newest additions, actually, is the place you have to go to next. The early spark that was never there for BLG is definitely there now. First in jungle control is something worth noting. These are changes in stats since they came into the roster in Week 8 to now. The fact that they've got #1 ranking in jungle control when teams like Snake exist does wonders for the side of BLG. They're a fantastic team in the early game now, and their gold difference at 20 has actually gone up by 1,300. An entire BF sword more than they had before, and this actually all culminates with an early game lead even further back towards the bottom lane. Road, the Wanderer, the man who goes everywhere on Summoner's Rift, the man who kills more wards than he takes because he wants to be opening up control, and his availability to be roaming around the Rift, enabling his team, working with them splendidly.
Yeah, Road took my award for most improved player of the split. Before, he was simply a liability, but now, as Rusty is talking about, he is one of the true carries for the team. They really rely on a lot of his engagements, so picks like Rakan are something to watch.
They certainly are, and he's been working well with Ginger. They've been a duo for quite some time, and it's good to see that the synergy is finally paying off for BLG. Now, we know what these two teams are stronger, so exactly how are they going to win this match? Let's start with JD. What do JD have to do to win this game against BLG?
So we're going to frame this like we're the coach of the team. We're going to tell them how can they beat their opponents. For me, Jingdong, the recipe is simple, is that you want to have a pushing bottom lane. If Road's known for his roaming, don't let him road. Just don't let him road roam, I guess. Keep him down in the bottom lane. Yeah, Civic Karma. Don't let like WE yesterday to playoffs. No, don't play Karma, play Civ, play something that pushes, keep them down there. Draw the pressure down towards your bottom lane. And then most importantly, counterpick top lane. Pick something that will win the lane 1v1 against Amazing J. Don't let the person who wants to be roaming around the map, team fighting, shot calling, do any of that at all. Sit up there, pressure him, play something like the Swain, one of Zoom's new signature picks, and just keep him there and kill him.
And this is the thing. We have so many legendary top laners running around our league, the likes of Jinnu, the likes of the Shy, and no one is talking about Zoom, but as you can see, he can hang with the best of them. This guy has multiple solo kills on all of these legends.
Yeah, 10 solo kills, 1 solo death. Compared to a lot of the other top laners, that is statistically incredible. Zoom knows how to kill his lane opponent, not just win the lane.
Now, he's going to be up against Amazing J, who was one of the MVP nominees for the Spring Split. He's been known as a big rock in the top lane and big initiator. Is that going to be one of the primary win conditions for BLG going to this match?
Absolutely. AJ is the captain and shot caller for the team, so of course he's going to be a huge factor. Now, I've got 3 rules here. AJ needs to have a long-range engage champion, Jin Zhao needs to have a late-game insurance policy, and they need to make sure that they have priority in that mid lane, so Chieftain and Mole can be that early-game duo. You saw it in the previous graphic. They went from, minus 300 gold, I think, to plus 1,300 gold. Now it's their gold difference at 20, and a lot of that does start in the mid lane.
And we already talked about it. Not only is it going to be in that mid lane, and as well as synergizing with Chieftain for BLG, but also the roaming potential that we get out from Road. Also the initiations that we'll see from Amazing J in the late game.
And it's important, we mentioned again, the Scion, the Ornn. Well, these are perfect examples of BLG's team fighting when they have got those tanks there to set them up for success. Certain champions we may not want to see, but certain ones are necessary. Sejuani's actually another one that comes to mind with the Rakan as well.
Yep, Sejuani, Rakan, Ornn. And here's the thing. The short and sweet of it is that JD Gaming blow up past 20 minutes. This team is not able to close. They can't play around objectives. If I'm BLG and I'm known for my late game 5v5, just sit back. Wait it out. Have these scaling champions grab an Azir, grab something like a Jhin, and just say, it's fine. We'll see you at the finish line.
Well, JD are going to try and deny BLG from doing just that, whereas BLG, they want to try and scale up. We know they have a good early game now. They've got a good late game as well, and we're about to get into the first match of the Best of 5 series.
Taking a look at the lineups on the blue side, it is going to be BLG, Amazing J, their brand new duo, Chieftain and Mole, Jinjiao and Road.
And you will note that the duo is going to be playing this time around. No Athena, no SKS to be seen. It seems like these two players in Chieftain and Mole have shored up the weaknesses and maintained the strengths for BLG, which is exactly what they need.
They're going to be met by JDG, Zoom in the top lane, Clit in the jungle, Yakgao in the mid lane with Loken and Lu Malice, the AD carry and support.
And again, if you're going to pick out 2 members to follow, it's again that mid-jungle duo, Clid and Yagao. This team is only second to Invictus Gaming for their early game stats, and it does start with that duo.
Gonna have to keep track of that duo. Clement talks about them all the time for the side of JDG, how they synergize together and work together. They're now up against the new duo of Chieftain as Mole. And it's going to be a big clash. We know that these two teams, we've already talked about how they have the potential to run all the way to the finals. And it starts with a first victory here in the first round of playoffs. So I'd like to ask you guys before we go into the first game, what are your predictions for this match?
Well, I'm going to say that it's BLG, but I'm going to caveat this because I know what Frostgoon's opinion is. I think that Jingdong will take a game. I think they'll be able to teamfight late game. Maybe there's not a lot of faith here for Jingdong's late game teamfighting, but I think Loken's actually shored that up. So I'm going to say they get one map, and then BLG still runs them over.
Oh no, Rusty's wrong. Okay, boom.
Ooh.
We've got BLG, and it's not just going to be BLG for this. BLG are actually my dark horse to make the gauntlet run. I think that Rogue Warriors haven't shown us the form that they can recover. I think there's a possibility that BLG start their finals run today.
Well, you heard it here first from Raz as well as Rusty. No, it's actually Rusty and Frostgoon making the predictions here. Both of them think that BLG
I look good today.
pick up the win here in that first match. And if we have to look towards one player from JDG to try and upset BLG and take it home for Jingdong, who are we looking towards?
Yagao!
I'd say Yagao, maybe Zoom. Depends if the solo kills come about. I'm hyped for this top lane.
So it's going to be the solo laners coming out from JDG to try and pick up a victory here against BLG, but the analysts think that is BLG favored. We're going to get into game number 1, but first, let's hear from Amazing J, who has some choice words about Zoom in the top lane.
我会和京东的上单白胖子交手，我觉得他是一个乌鸦玩的非常好的选手，因为上次我看他们那个比赛，他打怼帅这个乌鸦的操作特别好，所以要注意这个点。我的目标应该是能赢就赢下去吧，因为季后赛的对手都十分之强大，就能赢就赢嘛。
The Alistair said it and AJ said it as well, looking towards those solo lanes to try and get the win here for JD Gaming. But I'm Pulse, this is Clement. How are you doing today, Clement?
I'm doing really fine. I'm looking at that translation. I noticed that they actually skipped out the word where you called Zoom the white fatty.
They are the dumpling duo after all, but we're about to get into BLG and Jingdong Gaming game 1 here for Champion Select. It's going to be Galio and Trundle coming out from BLG for their first couple bans, and of course aiming towards the top lane will be a Swain ban towards Amazing J.
We do have to note that Jingdong decided to pick up red side themselves, so to answer the analyst desk, who's going to be the big carry today, you just have to look at that last pick. Is it going to go to Zoom or is it going to go to Yagao?
We'll see as we get later on into this Champion Select. Alistair will be a ban against the bottom lane here towards Mao and Sejuani at Chieftain. Of course, we've really just been seeing the Sejuani and the Skarner as the go-tos for Chieftain, so we'll see if BLG look for the priority here.
Yep, a lot of good research work being done by Jingdong right here. BLG, they like to play on blue side, and they like to play Zaya and Sejuani for their first pick. They've taken away both of those options, and they now have the chance to force Amazing J, someone who is not very strong in lane, to go up against Zoom. Zoom has the Fiora for this matchup, and he also has the Camille.
Bit of a left turn though, BLG prioritized the gangplank into the top lane, meaning JD, hey, they can just lock in the Camille right now. And while it's a flex pick, Clid can also pick it up into the jungle. I could definitely see Zoom taking that into the 1v1 matchup in top lane.
Yeah, they're definitely setting up for that. Zoom and Clid, that's a very iconic duo. They do like to gank for each other quite a lot,
okay.
But what? Loken going for the Kai'Sa right off the bat. This is patch 8.6. Her AP ratios have been doubled, and also her attack range has been increased by 25.
Yeah, this is super strong Kai'Sa coming into this patch. Even before on 8.5, the LPL was picking up Kai'Sa and still pick up wins with it, but now I feel like it will be more widespread amongst more of the teams. It's not just going to be SMLZ and maybe the occasional Chelly game. BLG are still going to get priority on jungle though, and Chieftain will get the other side of his champion coin, I'm going to call it, in the form of Skarner.
Yeah, this is definitely the champion that he looks towards to the most. They are the team that started the Thresh and Skarner combination for the LPL, and the way he plays it very aggressively. He's always looking to gank the enemy jungler. That's actually the position he ganks the most. 40% of the times, he's looking for that enemy jungler.
Hover over Jin will be locked in, living up to his namesake right there. Jinjiao will get his hands on that champion, so excited to see what he can do with that in the bottom lane here.
This is a weird quiver here coming out from Jingdong. I do expect the Zac a lot more. This is a champion that they know how to play with. They've had very good success on it, and it just goes towards Klid's strength. He's a ganking jungler. He's typically very far behind in terms of GD and experience, but he likes to gank, and that's how Jingdong gets their early game leads.
Especially if you want those solo lanes to be doing well in this one, you need Klid to be coming in there with the Zac, with the early ganks to try and get that rolling there for JD. Moving on to the next phase of bans, it will be Ryze coming out towards Mole right here, trying to shut down just the easy ganks into the mid lane. Not going to just have the easy Rune Prison into Chieftain running in from the jungle.
Yeah, this is a really good ban because it takes away something Mole is comfortable blind picking. There are not a lot of champions that he typically does blind pick. He's much more of a counter pick oriented mid laner, so if you take those options away, it really does look more like the Talia might be the one he goes to.
Look for those roams, look for the lockdown. Morgana will round out the bans here for JD Gaming. I'll take that one away from Road, and Karma will be the ban towards JD. Let's see what the final one is now from Bilibili.
I really like the setup from Jingdong right now. They have a very strong backline dive team set up already. If you look at BLG, Jin, gameplay, not a lot of mobility, very fragile champions, and Jingdong can simply pile on in. It doesn't matter if they can't outfight BLG right now because they simply have an easier comp to execute.
It's really interesting. Take away the Leona at the end there towards Mal. We know he can play it, but we were kind of expecting, you know, if we saw the Lovers Duo and Rakan wasn't banned out by JD, you know, maybe that would be the counter there to make sure he doesn't get the counter. But in case, just going to take that one away. Zoe will be locked in, though, for JD Gaming. Now, if you haven't watched All Split, you haven't seen JD Gaming, Yagao is an absolute monster on Zoe. And I'm actually surprised it's gone all the way through picks and bans.
Oh, yeah. Yesterday, watching Xiaohu play that, I knew that Yagao was going to get a look into Zoe himself. So that's a very strong champion. BLG, you typically have the LeBlanc as a counter pick. We haven't seen that from Mole, and he does go for something very predictable. Like I said, he would go for it, the Talia blind pick.
So we're going to see here will be counter pick now for... oh no, you guys already picked up the Zoe.
Yeah, it's not technically a blind pick, but in that situation where you don't really have a counter, that's just a kind of a stable pick for him.
For sure. And BLG with the final pick now. Looking at support, it's just going to be Thresh. So we're looking for plays in the bottom lane alongside that Jhin. There's definitely a hover over Blitzcrank. We have seen this earlier in the split as well. Actually out of Mao.
It does work with the composition. They want full-on engage, but it doesn't have a very good time in terms of the laning phase. If you look at that lane, that's a very dangerous scenario. You're basically banking on the hooks to land. If that doesn't go through, that's actually a very weak lane against Jhin Thresh.
It's definitely scary. 2 seconds left. We'll see if they lock it in, and it is locked in. We will have ourselves a Blitzcrank in the playoffs here in the LPL. And now Mao, he's picked this one before when they were up against it. This was kind of their ace in the hole, the ace up the sleeve here for JD. But I'm surprised to see it in game 1 of this best of 5.
And that's the big difference here between Jingdong and BLG. Jingdong, a lot of times, they don't prioritize that bot lane laning phase. They actually just want the initiation, the kill pressure to come out from that lane. And if you look at their composition, I think Jingdong has the better draft right here. They got every single piece they wanted. They want full-on engage, very strong early game, very easy to execute late games, and they have the Kai'Sa to dive in with them as well. For BLG, they actually have to keep Jingdong at arm's length.
I will say, though, for BLG, they have a lot of comfort picks coming into this one. You've got Skarner into the jungle. We've seen that plenty of times out of Chieftain. Mid lane, as he said, just a very blanket Talia coming into the mid lane. Jin Zhao on his namesake champion, Jin in the bottom lane. And Amazing J also got priority in what he wanted in the top lane in the form of Gangplank. So maybe there isn't a lot of cohesion, but in terms of what they want to play themselves, I feel like they're okay.
I think Team BLG, they need to weather the storm in terms of the first initiation coming out from Jingdong. If they can somehow manage to pull their carries out of that big pit fight, then they do have a good counter-engage composition. But first, they have to survive the first impact coming out from Zac.
I mean, that pretty much is, that's the whole game in a nutshell, what you just said there, Clement. It's like, survive the early game, then go to team fights because you're BLG, you're good at team fights, you're probably going to roll over most of the teams in the LPL, especially JD Gaming. So strike hard, strike fast, try and win through that laning phase in the early game if you're JD.
There is a lot of danger in this composition from BLG, though. It does shut down a lot of things that they're actually really strong at. The long-range engage that Frostkern was talking about from Amazing J, it's not here this game. The mid lane priority, it's not here this game either. So a lot of engines from BLG are actually being shut down. They have to play the counter-engage style, and they have to weather the first blow coming out from Jingdong Gaming. So that's not always an easy thing to do. And my biggest criticism for BLG is that when they fall behind in the mid game, they're not a very good team at recovering. They actually just take the punches, and it never looks like they find they're comfortable at going in and taking it to their opponents. We've seen that against WE, we've seen that against EDG. It can't happen this time.
And this BLG roster is relatively new, and while they've had a very good run, you know, heading into playoffs, it was a 4-series win streak coming out of them. They also went against some of the weaker teams in the LPL, right? Like maybe FPX was one of the teams you could say around the middle of the pack, you know, nearing the standards of BLG, but taking wins against like TOP, for example, OMG, like you're really looking at Radovici, like you're looking at BLG making very easy wins right there. So it's just like, how good is this roster really?
And I really think BLG has been one of the dark horses, but also the most untested team, just like you said. They did have that massive 9-game win streak, but they did it against 3 non-playoff teams. They basically were beating up on the lower tiers of the LPL, and you can actually just expect them to win in those cases. This is their first time they're actually going to meet up in the Beasts of the East. That's where all the monsters really lie in the LPL right now. So this is going to be a big moment for BLG. Are they really on that hype train, or have they just been given a pass?
Oh yeah, I mean, in cross-conference, we really got to see what the East was made out of. The top 3 didn't drop a single game. They were 21-0 coming out of the cross-conference. So you're absolutely right. Now it's really crunch time for BLG. Even if they win here, you've got Rogue Warriors to go and then EDG. So the road doesn't get easier.
Oh, definitely it doesn't. And on the other hand, I actually felt like Jingdong closed out their season strong. They took down opponents like RNG, took down Rogue Warriors, and also took down Sunny to finally claw their way back into playoffs. These guys were sitting at 2nd place in the Eastern Conference before Uzi made his return. So Jingdong is on a uptick. I wouldn't count them out, and I really don't see them being as weak as a lot of people anticipate.
As you can see right now, seems there is a small issue on stage. I just saw one of the refs talking to Jin Jiao right there. So trying our best to get that one sorted as fast as possible. But yeah, I definitely just want to mirror those sentiments, Clement. Like, definitely, if you look at the strength of schedule, you know, JD, it was much more impressive what they managed to pull off at the end of the split. Like, Blitzcrank was a small part of that as well, heading into that 3rd and final game. So for JD, eking into the playoffs, getting there in the very end, impressive feat, but they have to now play in the playoffs. If they want to make this run, they have to do it against BLG, who have the point advantage. Then they have to go up against the same track we just mentioned, Rogue Warriors and EDG.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a difficult track for either of these teams to really reach the top. What they can be happy about is that there is no Invictus Gaming on their side of the bracket.
Yeah, that's a silver lining right there, Clement. As we take a look at the comps one more time, did just confirm it was a small audio issue on stage, but as you can see, we are ready to head into game here. The crowd is absolutely packed and ready for this one here to cheer on their teams as we get onto the Rift for Team BLG versus Jingdong Gaming.
I do think that shopping is much more popular than anime in China.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, but that is because the manager, I believe, from JD follows the team wherever they go, and he's there every single time. I'm sure he has to rest his voice in between weeks as well, just for that one shout. But for everyone at home, this is effectively, in like a Western sense, Crunchyroll versus Amazon. Like, to compare it, like BLG, massive streaming website, JD essentially is like as big, maybe even bigger than Amazon in China. So this is a big deal in terms of organizations.
Take a look at the runes here. Well, actually, the Camille is going to go with something more poke-oriented. We have been seeing a lot of press the attacks, and Conqueror is also enabled on this patch, but Zoom not going for it yet. Everything else, I think, is pretty standard.
Yeah, Comet, I mean, just the fact it's been around for so long as well, you know exactly how to play around it, whereas I feel like, especially for Camille, you have to go in for poke trades using your precision protocol, so slightly harder, really, to get that use out of Conqueror in the laning phase at the very least.
Oh, this is really interesting because I think Klid is setting up for a very early gank into the bot lane right here. Jingdong actually kind of tried to be very devious with where Klid started. They're faking a leash that they leash for Klid. So they're trying to make BLG think that Klid will be going towards the top side.
Yeah, he is indeed pathing towards the top side right now. Just saw the runes as well coming out of Loken. Actually went for Resolve Secondary, taking Bone Plating and also Chrysalis. Basically, what every Bruiser takes in the top lane just gives you so much strength in the laning phase.
Oh, but BLG, you know, they really sniffed out this treachery coming out from Jingdong Gaming. They have a very good idea on where Clid is going to go to next. They have that ward there, and they understand that Clid is most likely going for an SOFM clear, where he goes back to that side of the jungle, takes up the blue and the Gromp at the same time and look for a gank.
Meanwhile, Chieftain looking for his opportunity to start coming in with these invades, because Chieftain, we see it all the time, he goes into the enemy jungle with his right-hand man Mole. He's always got that pushing lane ready for him, so he can go in for these 2 versus often 1 engages into the jungle. So look out for that one in the next couple of minutes, as now Chieftain is in fact making his way into the bottom river.
Yeah, that was really good information sharing from the mid lane and the jungle coming out from BLG right there. Talia being the one to go into the jungle, set those wards up, and then be ready to invade alongside Chieftain.
There we go, Chieftain just making himself known. Will walk up to the blue buff here and is pushing Clid away from this one, looking for the smite battle. Chieftain will secure it. What's the rotation for the lanes though? In comes Mao first to the scene, and Chieftain, there's nothing to slap him towards, so he's just going to take the Spire in front of Clid and take away his blue buff and simply walk out. No, he's not done. He's going to walk in and place down another ward.
This is absolute disaster from Clid right here. That's the biggest weakness of Zac in the jungle in the early levels. You can't really take those fights against those bruiser type of champions right there. And it was just good play on BLG. Jingdong, they tried to fake out by doing a fake leash. They didn't actually do the leash. They let Zac start with the wolves. But BLG called them out on it. They just went into their jungle, placed wards, and basically mapped out what Clid was going to do for the next couple of minutes.
You know, just talking about like pre and post Mole Chieftain area, when you compare them to Athena and SKS, you can see jungle CSD at 20, not only from a small deficit to a massive advantage now for the jungle just alone, and the gold difference, of course, going to be following that. Even in terms of kills and how Chieftain is able to impact these lanes, massive difference.
We've really seen 2 very different trajectories for these teams. BLG, from week 8, they had Mole and Chieftain, and they shored up their early game. For Jingdong, they actually got Loken back in week 9, and he's been doing 36% of the team's damage in the last week. They've been shoring up their late game. So it's really about have each of these teams really patched up their weaknesses to the point where they can overcome the other.
You know, and you would look towards BLG saying maybe they have patched up the weaknesses more than JD heading into playoffs right now, taking a map off of EDG in their final game of the season. Then you look towards, you know, JD, and they've had a rocky ride. Like, their high highs, super good. Like, they can take wins against Rogue Warriors, against RNG, some of the best in the league. But the lows mean they can also drop games against some of the weaker teams.
Oh yeah, and when you talk about their lows, you think about past 25 minutes.
Well, Clid's going to find Chieftain in his jungle. This time, the Gao is here to try and counter-gank Chieftain. Heavily wounded, but here comes Mole to try and save him. The right-hand man seems like he's going to get him out of this one. And here's the Wanderer as well. Mole turns up to the mid lane.
And this is one of the big advantages here for how BLG plays so aggressive with their mid and jungle duo. Road is always on the roam. He's always looking to go forwards.
But Mao was doing the same, chased him up to the mid lane, but Road is already moving towards the bottom now, looking for his own recall. So just in terms of tempo, Bilibili always the first to get to these fights.
Yep, and they're the ones looking for them at the start as well. Jingdong Gaming, they did have the drop onto Chieftain, but they couldn't continue with the fight because Road was already there to support his team. And this is a big thing about the bot lane from Jingdong. If you're talking about Kaisa and Blitzcrank, it's a very weak lane. It's not a lane where you can expect any CS advantages. So this is going to allow Road to have a lot of free time to roam elsewhere.
Of course, then we have to look towards the top side of the map, the solo lanes, as the Alice desk was saying. You're looking towards your Gao and Zoom, the Dumpling duo, to really get something happening in the early game. Clid's going to be the one facilitating, but so far we have essentially an equal game. Bilibili with the tiniest of advantages in terms of CS, but obviously that's good things further down the line because BLG usually gets a team fights behind. If you think about SKS in the Athena era, it would always be a comeback story. But now BLG, even or ahead, gets a team fight, roll over the opposition.
And that just comes down to Chieftain, man. If you look at all of the CS lead, it's basically on that Skarner alone. Already 5 camps ahead of his opponents. And this is what Chieftain brings to you. He brings a much more aggressive tempo early game. He's going to drag your mid laner into the jungle with him.
So the bottom lane always going to be volatile in this one, as we essentially have Hook City, Rhodes and Mouth. They connect to Death Sentence, connect to Rocket Grab. then Sparks will fly in the bottom lane, but neither of those things have happened just yet. And I am looking towards Chieftain once again, completely controlling the bottom river. It's lit up like a Christmas tree, and he's just going to go ahead and recall.
I do feel like BLG, they are the ones that need kind of a big advantage and also a steady, smooth sailing to really close this game out. They're running a very fragile composition. If you look at the late game, Zoom, Zac, Blitzcrank, like, it's just too easy for something to go wrong in that scenario. So I think they need a very big lead early and just try to coast on that lead towards the late game. If they're even footing later on, I just don't see this composition winning out.
You can see some of the champions that AJ has played this split. Of course, Gangplank up there along with Ornn, seeing the Vladimir. Honestly, recently I looked towards the Ornn, I'm like, that's probably one of the most impressive ones I've seen in the LPL.
Oh yeah, I call him the pain train conductor. He's so good on that Scion, so good on that Ornn. If he can set up a team fight for you, then it's going to be like something miraculous. It's going to be a 5 or 4-man knockup that's going to happen in the top lane. Also, a really cool stat we just were shown there was that he takes the most damage to kill out of any top laner for a single death. So he's taking a lot of brunt of the damage, and he's still managing to survive a lot of times in this team fights.
He's also facing down Zoom in this one. One of the most dominant laners in the top lane. He's definitely been like the silent but deadly in the top lane. You look at the flashy players like the Shy, and it's like, man, solo kill after solo kill. But the Shy is in a category of his own. But then when you look at everybody else, Zoom's up there. He has all of the laning stats. He wins the lanes. We've seen the solo kills as well that he's gotten over some of the best in the top lane. Like, don't sleep on this guy. He will find solo kills.
I do call Zoom the inverse AJ. While AJ is great in team fights, he's not very good in lane. Zoom is the exact opposite. A lot of times, I really don't know what he's doing in team fights, but he is very good in lane.
Get those advantages, especially into a Gangplank right here. We saw Amazing J actually take Grasp in this one, so it's not going to be the hyper-greedy build. Often see him start Mana Crystal. That's going to be a hook on both of them, in fact, but Mao is the one over the wall right now. Here comes Clid into the fight, but he's instantly impaled out from Chieftain. I'm going to turn intervene just yet, but Loken is approaching the play. They're still chasing down Clid. He has to flash away, gets the CC down onto Chieftain. Yagao also turns up, he doesn't have the damage right now, and we've got Jin opening fire. 2 shots onto Clid. Going to be another kill coming out there. A 1-to-1 trade so far for BLG and JD, but BLG should be able to get away with this blue buff.
Yep, and they do get it away onto Jin Zhao. That was a good fight setup from BL.
Oh!
But Kaisa with the W, able to snipe out Chieftain as well to make that a 2-for-2, and she also got the red buff.
Caught in the crossfire out from Yagao and Loken, just sniped him from 2 angles. I mean, he was literally full health. That was a full health Skarner.
Yeah, and he just disappeared instantly. That was a much better setup from BLG. They knew that they could keep Zoom in the top lane and assist with that cannon barrage down into the bot lane as well. Chieftain has had a much better game compared to Clid the entire way through, but in terms of the kill trade, they actually just end up even. And if you look at where those kills are going to, that's a real worry, sign of worry for BLG right now, because Kaisa picking up 2 kills early, ooh, that's really dangerous. She's already going for her Quinsus.
That is definitely cause for concern. I agree with that one for sure, but we get to see that engage, and he drags him over the wall with the death sentence.
Yeah, definitely a better Hook City coming out from Road right there, taking Liu Mao over the wall. And they're forcing Clid into a very uncomfortable position. Talia's already here as well. She does get the wall into the back line, and Clid is kind of just trapped in this scenario. Great cannon barrage coming out from Amazing J in the top lane. It basically forces the right side to move away here. And honestly, BLG should just walk away with this 2-for-1 trade and the blue buff. We have to watch it again. Already being slept on right there. That's going to increase the damage from the next spell. And the final touches coming out from Kaisa, from Loken right there. That is a 3,000 range skill on her W, and she's able to snipe out Chieftain.
Some absurd damage coming out of that duo right there, and that's early Gwinsus. We're 11 minutes into the game, and Kaisa has Gwinsus. So if you're looking for a carry, if you're looking for that late game insurance, then Loken looks like he's on track so far in this game.
That's just so unfortunate. To have been suppressed in lane the entire time and just come out of it with a complete Gwinsus, I feel really bad for Jin Zhao right now.
We see, and again, another small invade coming out of Chieftain, and Rhodes coming up here. Rhodes just cleaning up this track. Again, finds Chieftain in the jungle, but he's still able to hit the blast cone. Clid has found him, however. Hits him with the stretching strike. There's the pull coming out from Mao. And the slide all the way back to the team. Clid is down, but Road is separated from the team. Here's Jin opening fire. trying to provide cover fire for his support, and he has done so. Mao takes a lot of damage on the back half of that. Zoom chasing them down. Talia picks up the kill onto Blitzcrank, and Yagao and Loken trying to retreat now as Zoom is pushing forwards. He takes a big crit shot to the back of the head as he's trying to retreat, and Loken, he's caught out. Magnificent flick coming out of Mole.
And Mole coming out of the woodwork with a triple kill right there. That was a great play from BLG. They used their range advantage so well. They kited Jingdong, who are stuck in the middle of that river both ways. You could see Mole coming in from the back line and also the front line moving away at the last possible moment. Well played on all fronts from BLG, and that's a very rare execution that we see in League of Legends. A flanking team being able to kite around this massive engage from Jingdong, splitting them apart and taking them apart as well.
Look at that, 4 kills now to Mole in the mid lane, 4-0 and 1. And I would say that if we had any criticisms of BLG and their new roster, it'd be maybe their team fighting prowess is slightly weaker than it was with SKS and Athena, but they usually had the advantage in the early game. That kind of demonstrated to me that they have both.
Yeah, and let's watch this fight again. It did start out well for Jingdong. They did get the sleep onto Chieftain, but Chieftain able to take the Lantern away. Klid is stuck in a really bad position. And just watch how beautiful this kiting job was from BLG. They have the front and the back as well. Jin Zhao moves away at the last moment to dodge the Sleepy Trouble bubble, and Mole comes in from the side to finish the job.
And JD kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Someone was going to be sacrificed right here, and it was Loken, unfortunately, going down. Triple kill in for Mole at the end of that.
And that's exactly how BLG have to play this game. They have to weather the first initiation from Jingdong, pull away and pull them to pieces right there. The big thing that did change in this matchup now is Mole should have full control over that mid lane. He already has most of his mana items complete, and if he can move into that bot lane, get that 4v2 going, BLG could open this map up in the next 5 minutes.
JD now are behind on the map, and this is, very scary. Yes, they have the long range gauge. Yes, they have, Loken as the carry in the late game, but it doesn't seem like right now they're going to be able to reach that late game at an even footing, as BLG are actually taking the advantage in the early game again. What you really want to be hoping for as JD is to really just try and diffuse BLG's invades that are coming out. But so far, it seems like Chieftain and Mole are able to do what they have been doing over the last 5 sets.
And the time is also ticking for the top lane. In this matchup, Camille doesn't get a free pass. You need to stay ahead of the game plank to remain relevant. A reason why Amazing Jay's game plank is his most played champion is the fact that he's been willing to go for the Undying Grass very early on in the season. He's been able to weather a lot of the split pushes and come out still ahead with just the Parlay gold. He doesn't need the Kleptomancy gold. So this game plank that he's playing in the late game, we've seen him multiple times being able to weather the storm against split pushers. Now, if that lane doesn't go well for Zoom, then his team fighting is also a very far cry from Amazing Jay. So it's about time that Jingdong need to put some resources into that top lane.
Yeah, because we've barely seen anything out of the top lane right now, so maybe a gank coming in from Klid into the top side, because clearly the bottom side of the map is not going well for JD right now. Complete control in terms of vision. Dragon just went down over to Chieftain as well, basically single-handedly. We had Mole just blocking the mid lane. At best, JD were able to get their blue buff at the very least, but it just seems like they are bleeding resources out across the map now.
Yep, they're having a very hard time holding on to their own blue buff area right now. Every time BLG gets a chance, they're going to send Chieftain in. They're going to send Mole in, who has the lane priority right now in the mid lane as well.
Looking towards this top lane, and this is essentially a gangplank lane. Like, yes, it's a losing matchup, as on most matchups, but just able to sit at range, parlay for farm, parlay to Camille for extra gold. Klid is now moving towards the top lane, however, so this could be a play from JD in the makings.
Jingdong do want to play a 4-1 if it does come to the later stages of the game, and they do need to keep that Camille rolling right now, because Gameplank, I believe he has more gold than Zoom.
Here comes the package. Klid into the top lane, gets the CC down onto Amazing Jay. He slapped towards a minion. Zoom looking to put down the dash, but here's Chieftain with the counter gang. Amazing Jay's low, but he drags away to Camille back to the tower. Amazing Jay still alive. Finally, he'll go down. Mo in from the mid lane, special delivery. He'll get that kill, and Yagao has to kite away now. The rest of the team dead, and just the bloblets to die.
And another 2-for-1 going to BLG. Mo goes up to 5 kills. And just look at how Road is rotating around the map. The first thing they know when there's a play in the top side, they instantly go for the more prioritized objective on the map. They go for the mid lane, and they're able to chunk down quite a good portion of it.
And none of these plays are working out here for JD. Even when they initiate the play, Chieftain with the counter gank roaming towards the top side, mid lane as well. The fact that Mole is on Talia and can react if a trade goes long, it's just like diffusing everything that JD wants to do here. Yagao is poking Chieftain, trying to poke him off of this Rifthold right now. We also see the teleport coming in from Zoom. Do not want to allow Chieftain to get this one for free. He's dropping it dangerously low though. He wants the reset. There we go.
Yep, Chieftain did have the smite for that one, but wasn't willing to commit to finishing it. Camille already coming back onto the map with that Triforce power spike is able to scare him away.
Yeah, so Chieftain will have to go back to base first, pick up some items, then once again just walk up with his laners and see if they can actually look for a skirmish and maybe a kill into a Herald. But it's not going to be quite that easy, not quite as easy on the bottom side when you have the dual lane to roam up for the Dragon. So BLG at the very least will be stymied in that respect. Again, Hook going wide in the bottom lane. A lot of skill shots, just kind of a war of attrition right now as Kai'Sa and the Jhin are both scaling up.
And we can see what BLG are trying to do right now. They're trying to take control over that bot side river so they can set up for that 4v2 play in the bot lane. This is their big moment. If they can break that open, they take control of the next couple of dragons, and those are infernal breaks.
Amazing J being blocked from moving towards the river right here by Zoom. And take out this ward as well. So he's just trying to suppress Amazing J right now, maybe put him in a gank position as well if Clid wants to roam towards the top side again. Chieftain's actually on the bottom side of the map here, so this would be much more successful if Clid pulls the trigger.
I like what Clid's trying to do here is basically trying to find a chance where he can snipe out Mole. If Mole goes down, that diffuses the 4v2 play bottom, and it also gives Yagao a chance to snowball himself back into the game. However, Mole knows this as well, and he's been playing very careful in the mid lane.
For sure. Still 5-0-2 has not died a single time. Is at 2 items right now at the 18-minute mark. Bot lane is about to fall for a first tower of the game, and all of that juicy gold will go over to Jin Zhao. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Zoom might get a trade right here because Amazing J is cut off from the supply line. He's unable to reach the top lane since Clid is in the jungle.
Yeah, I really feel like the plan with Clid this game has failed horrifically. They haven't gotten any ganks in top or in bot either.
Mid lane's also very low from the poke coming in from Mole. Chieftain off to the side. Tower's low itself. Mao searching for a potential hook, but this tower is essentially dead. One more minion wave will do it. Just need the AD carry to step up. And Clid, he was ready to engage. If BLG went for another push, he was ready to go in, but not going to be today.
Zoom still doesn't have his teleport up, so that would be a 5v4 scenario in the mid lane. I think that BLG could have actually just stayed a little bit while longer and actually taken that tower down, but didn't want to go for the risky play at all. This is what BLG looks like in the mid game. They are very conservative.
And Amazing J makes his way back to the top lane. We'll catch a lot of this farm as it's bouncing towards his tower now, and the Gangplank, yes, he's down around 40 farm to Zoom, but you know, Parlay will definitely even up the numbers for certain. And now we get into this roaming phase of the game now for both teams, and that's where I start to feel like we're going to see some of those hooks come out from Mao and Roden. A lot of those will dictate how these skirmishes will go.
If you run a composition like this, there's no way you don't get a pick the entire game. Like, it has to happen sometimes. Like, you have Zoe, you have the Blitzcrank hook, and you have Zac as well. Like, that's just too much engage. And my question is really, how much can they get from that miracle fight?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The law of probability definitely states that at some point, something's got to hit.
Yeah.
Towards the top side, and no one picked up the Herald in the end, since JD defended that one, so Baron has just spawned. And Chieftain, does he know Clid is there? Well, he doesn't right now. Flash forwards onto Yagao, and he's going to slide back with the Lantern once more. But Yagao, he's running away from this play, and the Thresher's dead. It will be a 1-for-1 trade. But here comes Jin Zhao opening up, opening fire on Mao, taking so much damage. He will Zhonya's though, go into the stopwatch. He's still going to fall, however.
Another 2-for-1 traded in BLG's favor, and a good use of the Skarner and Thresh combination once more. They are the first team in the LPL to start this trend here, and you can see why they've been so successful with it.
Take down mid lane, 2 towers to 1 for BLG, and they get to rotate towards the Dragon, which happens to be an Infernal Dragon for themselves. So BLG is going to be even stronger when it gets to these fights and skirmishes. We'll be very happy with this. We'll see what the next Dragon's going to be. Looks like it's another Infernal.
The problem for Jingdong right now is they just don't have the vision to be the ones on the offensive. This is a very good catch combination, but you need to have some setup for that as well. You need your team to be grouped together and wait for someone to walk into vision and grab them out of thin air. They just don't have the map presence to do so.
The grab and slide.
Oh, that was so cool to watch. Numal does get a hook on his own, but that's only on the enemy support. And look at this Kaisa. If she doesn't have a front line to back her up, the Hurricane build really isn't that powerful. You want to be constantly auto-attacking and stacking Plasma on a front line, but when the enemy gets the drop on you, you just never get a chance to deal damage.
Unfortunate, and Loken is also looking towards his fight as well, though Chieftain walking into a death rush set up by JD Gaming, though he's still alive. That was a weird interaction. Clid actually escapes out of the Impale right there.
Yeah, that was really good on Clid's part. He used the ultimate to get the unstoppable, so that put Chieftain's ultimate Impale onto cooldown, and he was able to walk away from the Thresh.
Perfect timing, because he even took the Death or the Dark Passage, so he was about to turn up to BLG in the waiting arms of Jin Zhao in the mid lane. So well played to Clid right there. And right now, JD being very proactive. I like to see this out of them. They placed a lot of vision in River, just trying to deny vision for BLG, forcing them to walk into these dark areas.
This is just such a good bait play from BLG coming out of here. Chieftain is like the lantern on top of a lanternfish, you know? He's there to try to bait you in, try to bite, and then he's going to bring you into the jaws of BLG.
He's been successful a couple times this game. And Mao is sitting on top of a control ward, as Blitzcranks are wont to do, searching for the occasional prey to walk by and find the hook. And right now, it seems like Road is the one on the line, but Mao's just going to walk out here. What's going to happen? There's a lot of traps actually set up by Jin Zhao around this mid lane. And we're kind of stalled out for now. We're just waiting for one of those big engage spells to go up.
If Jingdong can keep this scenario on the map until like 35 minutes, where Camilla's definitely going to have a split push lead, they could leverage that bot lane a lot more and try to play with that 5v4 advantage in the mid lane as well. But for now, Jingdong, they can't really split BLG up. BLG knows that there's only a 4-man on the map in the top side, so they're grouping as 4 themselves, and that really neutralizes what Jingdong wants to do in terms of like an initiate and catch team fight.
Zoom can only push so far with that tower being down in the bottom lane. If there's a rotation from BLG, he wouldn't see it coming. So it's hard for him to really continue pushing up against this gangplank. And BLG, they're just sitting in the mid lane, accumulating resources. Right, if this goes on for a long amount of time, then JD, yes, they will get the chance to scale up. But BLG, for now, it just feels like a matter of time before they make a big play. They're playing around the Baron now, and it's always around this fog of war. So JD will be able to reveal right here. It's just this push and pull from both teams that we're seeing.
The distance that they're able to set these...
There it is, finds the Impale, drags
wow.
him back to the team again. I didn't even see Blitzcrank fall. He's dead.
Yeah, so it's basically Hook City, but I know who has the better hooks. It's definitely BLG.
Yeah, well,
right
one's
there.
a point and click, so it's much easier to attach onto.
That's the most deceptive red camp that I've ever seen being set up. So you still see the mid lane, like Jin and Thresh are still in the mid, but they're able to execute that at the same time.
It's just so strong. It's like they just fusion danced into just a better Blitzcrank, you know, with those 2 champions alone. Here comes Chieftain. He's sitting on top of this red buff. He's about to take a nap. We're going to have a smite battle right now. A lot of damage onto Chieftain. He's in place and good smite out of Clid, so he will secure this one over to JD.
The pressure from BLG is really getting overwhelming at this point. And I really like how they're doing all of this, invading into the enemy jungle with their minion waves synced up as well. They had the bot lane pushed up, they had mid lane pushed up, and then when they realized Jingdong couldn't contest them in the red, they went top lane and took down a tower. So this is just great play from BLG Gaming. It really shows that they are the more experienced squad compared to Jingdong.
And that was the question, right? Because we've seen this new roster go up against a lot of easier matchups for themselves. So are they the real deal? Will they actually be able to come through the early game cleanly against some of the better teams in the league? Well, right now, we've definitely seen it out from BLG. Even when put in a confrontation against JD, often able to just out-mechanic their way out of these fights.
I think their fight setup has just been much better than Jingdong Gaming. I wouldn't go as far as to say their mechanics are better, but their coordination, what they want to do and how they want to execute, they're just on a completely different level than Jingdong Gaming. Jingdong Gaming, they picked themselves a lot of initiation, and they were just hoping that something would stick. That's basically their game plan for now. But BLG, they go further. They have more chapters in their book.
Just waiting for someone to walk into JD's crosshairs. That is the goal right now. Mao is constantly sitting in these brushes, as is Clid. Someone walks away from the team. If they just become a straggler, maybe we can pick them off. But the buddy system seems to be one truly alive here for BLG. the bottom lane and the mid lane, and the mid and jungle duo just walking around, and Amazing J off with the fairies in the bottom lane. We haven't really seen much of Camille and Gangplank this game, to be honest, but it's just been a big 4v4 in the mid lane.
Yep, and BLG, they are getting to that point where they have enough of a gold lead that even when Jingdong gets the perfect initiation, BLG could still come out ahead. They're 7k up already.
Theoretically, this is where Zoom should shine. That's a lot of damage out from Precision Protocol, but Zoom has to flash away. Here's the Jin ultimate opening up, but Amazing J gets the solo kill on Zoom. Nice hook out there onto Loken. He's in place, has to cleanse out of that one. Down goes the Blitzcrank, and a drag again onto Loken. Can't dodge that hook. That's going to be one kidnap away from Amazing J, but now he's just maybe sealed his own death here. Clid trapped in place. That's 4 kills for 0 over to BLG. And going into these bloblets, it's about to be the ace.
BLG with a magnificent fight right there, wiped Jingdong completely. Amazing J starting off with the solo kill. This is what we're talking about. This is why you go undead, the Grass of the Undying onto the Gangplank. If you scale out enough in the early game and there are no successful ganks for the Camille, you can actually become the split pusher yourself. Jingdong, their game plan has completely fallen apart because Clid has fallen apart. He's applied no pressure to the lanes where he really needs to get snowballs going. Jingdong, you know, they had a lot of snowball potential with the Camille, with Yagao, and with Kaisa as well, but they just couldn't latch onto any of that.
And BLG have taken so much off that play, and this all started from the 1v1 in the bottom lane.
This was good play from Zoom. He actually dodged most of the barrel damage, but just look how far ahead Amazing J is. He went second item Sterix Gauge, not for the armor penetration items, just so he could match up to Camille in the later parts of the game. And watch this engage from Mo. They're basically pulling apart Jingdong from 2 directions. Bolt gets the back line, and then Skarner, Thresh get the front.
Yeah. We saw Clid just kidnapping 2 over the wall and then realized that may have just sealed his own fate. 5 for 0 there for BLG. They pick up the Baron, they go towards the Dragon. That's their second Infernal now. And this seems almost an insurmountable gold lead now for JD to try and go up against. 58,000 at 29 minutes.
They just don't have enough damage to deal with BLG at this point. Sure, they have a lot of carries, but none of them are fed. None of them have really reached their true potential. They didn't snowball well in the early game, and their fight setup is being exposed. It's much inferior to BLG.
You know, both solo lanes, we were looking towards that dumpling duo, Zoom and Yagao. What have you got for us? And is it the chicken or the egg? Was it coming out of Clid? Was it coming out of the solo lanes? Well, something went wrong in this game. Those solo lanes did not get ahead. And when your Camille is being 1v1'd by a Gangplank, something has gone horrifically wrong.
I think they tried to play it too clever in the early level 1, and that's just been where it's snowballed. They didn't leash for their jungler, and they got spotted out and called out.
There's a curtain call, chasing down Clid and Yagao. The team is following through as well. Yagao, final crit shot. Nice block there from Mao. That probably would have been Yagao's doom, but it forced everyone from JD away from these inhibitors. The grand prize at the end of the day will still go down. Double inhibs to BLG.
And Jingdong, they have to look for a miracle right now if they want to go up against BLG. Not a lot they can do at this point. We're looking at the gold graphs, and sure enough, the Gangplank, even down in CS, is so far ahead of the Camille, he can take him on 1v1.
Yeah, in the mid lane though, 50% extra gold for Mole. Yeah, that's a 5,000 gold lead he has in the mid lane.
You know, I guess someone wasn't very happy that we gave Rookie of the Split to Yagao.
Hey, Mole's only been here for like, what, 4 weeks maybe, max? He hasn't been here for a long time, but absolutely Chieftain and Mole have just exploded onto the scene in the LPL, seamlessly working with BLG. Now it's pretty much just consolidating resources, take everything in the jungle, pick up the buffs, get ready for potentially the game-winning fight now for BLG.
Yeah, the one I'm looking at is really the Skarner. He can rush into the enemy composition. He's tanky enough. He has enough levels where he won't really die off immediately, and he can just pull someone back into their composition. It's so easy to execute for BLG.
When in doubt, Death Rush.
Thanks, Fnatic.
Someone will walk by. It's just a matter of time. And Yagao, go up there, you be bait. Walk on past. Amazing J's behind the minion wave though. Almost passed through it. Now the team's all going to retreat. JD weren't really feeling a fight. They just wanted to pick. They didn't want the whole cake.
There's no reason that BLG would send Amazing J on his lonesome towards multiple brushes. So Jingdong definitely smelled danger right there. Like, this doesn't look good.
Yeah, I appreciate the look there though. think they can make that happen. And Mao is on the wrong side of the wall, but luckily BLG are just here for the tower. Oh, just kidding, because they've just trapped in Blitzcrank, and Clid goes over the wall by himself. He's going to take so much damage. Chieftain has got a target in his sights, and he's dead before he can drag him back to the team. Opening up fire, here comes Jin Zhao once more. Zoom! Bang! There's the kill. Loken back onto the spawn pad, and it's now a 1 versus 5 affair.
All 3 inhibitors down, and it does look like BLG are going to seal the game right here.
Double Nexus turrets go down at the exact same time. 19 kills to 4. An absolute destruction of this first game in this best of 5. BLG take the win and are at match point.
Jingdong, I felt like they had the better composition coming into here. They had the overwhelming initiation and also lanes that could scale better in towards the late game. However, it was the early game where BLG, out of all places, shut Jingdong down.
I mean, that was essentially classic BLG. You know, what we were expecting for them coming into playoffs here.
I think
just got to see it in action.
Yeah, this is just the Chieftain showcase. This has been his game to really play. Like, he trounced over Clid and his Zac in the early game. Didn't allow him to farm, didn't allow him to gank, matched everything, got Mo rolling in the early game as well. I would not be surprised if he was the man of the match.
Will not be surprised at all. That early game was fantastic coming out of BLG. I just love that combo every single time. The Skarner and the Thresh combo. We just saw it over and over and over again. And Mao, I think he was trying to basically get the same thing, but turn it into a skill shot. We never saw any good hooks come out of JD.
And the reason was he never found an opportunity to actually hook. That's not a very strong 2v2 lane. You need the jungler there. And throughout most of the game, BLG had Jingdong's complete jungle lit up. They knew where Clid was going. They never gave him a chance to do anything on the map.
Yeah, the element of surprise was definitely lost for JD and never really able to find that engage. But I then looked to the jungle as well. You know, Clid didn't really impact those solo lanes. They didn't get those ones ahead, and that's what you need to look towards. You know, if you have a Camille versus Gangplank matchup, you want the Camille to win the split push.
Yeah, you need to snowball that lane earlier on, and I think they're going to go back to the drawing board and try to help Clid stand up to Chieftain in the early game. That's going to be their #1 problem to fix. I thought the composition was fine. I thought the execution could have used more work, but that's the main point they need to take away from this.
Try and win through that early game here for JD. For now, though, we are going to send it back to the analyst desk to take a look at game 1.
Thanks, guys. And now BLG are 1 game away from making it into the semi-finals. This was Frost Currensign, and Frost, you've given this to me, and you told me to hold on to it. Why is that?
Keep it for the finals, boy, because they're going all the way there.
All the way to the finals.
All the way.
BLG looking really good in this first match alone. This is just round 1 of playoffs. They've got to go through the semis, to the quarters, all the way to the finals to try and make it.
Quarters and semis, I understand. Reading's hard.
Readings is...
It's okay,
The point is they can make it, Fish. They won the first game and they're 2-0.
I'm going to take this sign. I'm going to, head on out here now. But yes, they're able to pick up the first match against JDG here. And had an interesting team composition. They used the Skarner as well as Thresh composition quite well, something that we've seen in the LCK quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's not just, the Thresh and the Skarner. It's the fact of how it's working with the Talia, having those pebbles laid down, and you drag someone with the Skarner ultimate, you're still doing damage via those abilities. So it was a really well thought out composition, but I also then want to point to JD's comp. I think Zac is the worst possible pick for someone like Clid and for someone like JD. And the reason why is he's not a tempo jungler. The fact is that he needs level 5 before he can be really successful with those ganks. And so if JD have to win before 15 minutes, have to find a gold lead, at 18 minutes they were down 5k gold, you cannot do it with a jungler like Zac, because Skarner was able to just out-tempo him, quickly farm, light up his jungle, and contest every single blue.
I think to conceptualize this as well, what JD were thinking is that they picked for individuals. They didn't necessarily pick for the team composition. As an example, their 4th pick was a Zoe, and the reason you go for Zoe here is because you don't want the enemy team to have the Zoe, as they've already set up a Jhin composition, a very strong pick comp with the Thresh, the Skarner available as well later, and ultimately they picked this to deny it, and they still gave BLG what they wanted in the end anyway. The Talia's good into the Zoe. They've got the Skarner that can farm through the jungle. The Blitzcrank's just a big question mark. And
should have been an Alistar.
Yeah, should have been an Alistar. I think it was there because you can pull a Skarner when he pulls you, but a Thresh Lantern ruined that completely. And I think the BL Griffin comp that we saw out of BLG was fantastic.
And the other thing is why I really want to hop on Alistar is Alistar-Kai'Sa combo. If you're going to pick a kill lane like that, you need to have the all-in engage. Kai'Sa works great with Leona. It's why we saw it banned out. Alistar's the next best go-to, and then also when the ally engages, it applies the immobile CC, so she can quickly use her ultimate if she wants to. So just a lot of holes in JD's composition.
Not just applies the immobile CC, but also applies the stacks to Kai'Sa's passive, making that damage output a lot higher coming out from the AD carry there. We saw the interaction between Thresh as well as Blitzcrank in one of the first few team fights, which surprisingly, it looked like it was going to go good for JDG when Kaiser picked up 2 kills off the back of it.
Yeah, it started off pretty well. You would almost say BLG were the ones going forwards, and when you look at that first fight, it was followed by multiple afterwards. It starts with, and this continued through the rest of them as well, whoever engages the fight seems to be the loser at the very beginning, but BLG just get more from it because they have vision, they have setup, they're constantly prepared for it.
And again, notice what level Clid is at when they want to start having this action. And yes, he is responding to BLG's pressure, but normally if this was BLG pre Mole and Chieftain, BLG would have gotten slaughtered here. But because it is Chieftain and Mole, they are able to trade 2 for 2 in the end, and this fight follows up 2 minutes later, and BLG get a massive triple kill on the back of it. So immediately out of the gate, we understood what the stakes of this game was going to be. We're going to have very early, heavy skirmishing. BLG are known for their 5v5, but now with this new duo, they can do it pre-15.
And this is the second fight where you've got a 2-0 Kaiser running around, but the combo is far too strong from the Skarner ultimate, from the Thresh Launcher, going over the Talia minefields that they can just kill Clid before he can really be relevant in the fight. And the rest of it is just a really clean chase down from the side of BLG, following up and killing the remnants of JD's roster in tatters.
Like you said earlier, Frosker and Mole was able to pick up a triple kill on the back half of this team fight. He was unstoppable in this match. At the end of the game, he was over 6,000 gold ahead of Yagao alone. He was a huge carry for BLG in this game.
And reminder, Yagao is not a bad mid laner. Again, he took my rookie of the split. He is a very strong laner. He has had multiple solo kills on very impressive mid laners. We just simply haven't had the tape of where Mole fits into the ecosystem of mid lanes. Right now, this is his big first test, and I'm impressed.
Yeah, honestly, him with Chieftain as well, working together, the ability to communicate, even when you bring Road now into the mix on one of his signature picks in the Thresh, it just seems like they fit far too seamlessly as new players into a roster, more so than we've actually really much ever seen in any team that comes into the LPL. And we see roster swaps all the time.
So we saw the early gameplay coming out from BLG there, and it transitioned to the late game team fight, something that we know them for. And it was Amazing Jay again. He's not an initiator, he's on Gangplank, but he still somehow finds the late game team fight for BLG.
And I want to kind of go deep dive into how they do this, and it's their vision control. The thing is that BLG are #1 in the league in terms of wards cleared per minute. That's mostly on the back of Road. And yes, this is a 1v1 solo kill, but it's the information, and it's constantly. If you just look at BLG's ward line, they're known for their flanking teleports. They leave nothing behind them, and they invade your jungle, and the vision all comes up with it. So it's how they're able to find these team fights and get incredible positioning. It's because they know exactly what they're walking into and where to set these traps. Always watch BLG's ward placement. It's one of the most impressive in the LPL.
And now I need to ask, was Mole robbed of MVP in this match? Because MVP goes over to Chieftain in the jungle playing Scar.
What?
I'm happy with it going to both, man. I think they both played super well. I know Mole had a fantastic performance, but it was also this guy, and it was the combo that you'll always get to see from BLG with the Thresh, because they are one of the few teams that has such a good Thresh player that they can make that combo work.
He was robbed. I'm sorry. I understand that Chieftain, he looks flashy. He's with the the combo, but Mole, he was so good flying around on that Talia, interacting with multiple lanes. Yes, Skarner was leading the way, but Mole really impressed.
Yeah, but Chieftain was also able to contribute quite heavily for BLG's victory. We know that Chieftain and Mole worked tandem together and been a huge part of the success for BLG in recent weeks. We're going to go into a very quick break. We'll be back with game number 2 in just a bit. What's a heart?